Nicola Bulley died as a result of drowning and was alive when she fell into the water, her inquest has heard. Dr. James Aidley, who was told to refer to Ms. Bulley as Nikki during the hearing at the County Hall in Preston, told members of her family, who were in court, "I'm sorry that you are attending this court under these circumstances." Witnesses giving evidence included a Home Office pathologist, a police diver, Professor Tipton and Dr. Morgan, who are experts in how people drown, an expert on body flotation after death, 9 members of the public who were in the area of the River Wyre when Nikki went missing, and Superintendent Rebecca Smith. During the inquest, Home Office pathologist Dr. Alison Armour said there was no evidence that Nicola was harmed. The pathologist also said Ms. Bulley had not been drinking before her death. Coroner Dr. James Aidley asked her, at the time of her death she had no alcohol in her bloodstream. Dr. Armour replied, "That's my opinion." The pathologist also dismissed any third-party involvement or that any harm had come to Ms. Bulley on the morning of her death. Paracetamol and a prescription beta blocker called propranolol were also found, but in very small amounts, not considered to be an overdose, she said. She noted Ms. Bulley's body had clearly been in the river for a period of time. Ms. Bulley's partner Paul Ansell and sister Louise Cunningham were among the witnesses set to give evidence at the 2-day hearing. The mortgage advisor's disappearance led to intense public interest, criticism of police and media, and a social media frenzy and so-called conspiracy theories. Lancashire police came under fire after revealing Ms. Bulley's struggles with alcohol and perimenopause. A police underwater search specialist said he believed Ms. Bulley fell into the river before floating downstream. In a video shown to the court, PC Matthew Thackeray said, "There is a large vertical slope from the bench and into the water. On the day there was a steady flow downstream. The river was 4C, so almost freezing, and if she fell in, the muscles would probably seize, making it difficult to swim properly." He estimated she would have floated at a meter a second downstream. Professor Michael Tipton said for someone of Nicola's size, just 2 breaths of water would have been a lethal dose. "We estimate the temperature would have been around 3 to 5 C, so there would be a particularly powerful cold shock response," he said. Lancs Live reports that Professor Tipton was asked how a person would respond psychologically to entering cold water. He replied, "You are absolutely preoccupied with the challenge you are being presented with. You need to breath hold, but your ability is significantly impaired if not removed. Those first seconds in the water, people really aren't considering anything else. We have heard people talk about routes to grab onto and points of safety, but you would not be thinking about that. You are preoccupied with attempting to hold your breath and get back to the surface. There is no normal, logical cognition going on. You are absolutely distracted, and entering such water is a painfully cold experience." Mr. Tipton also said there would have been a fairly rapid incapacitation after Nicola Bulley fell into the River Wyre. He said, "In my opinion, given the nature of the likely entry into the water, I would suspect Nikki had a gasp response under the water, initiating the drowning process. On the balance of probability, there was a fairly rapid incapacitation due to the cold shock. It was also heard it could have been an estimated 20 to 30 seconds before she lost consciousness." Professor Tipton has published more than 750 papers on the physiological response to extreme environments such as cold water. Lancs Live reported that around 100 meters from where Nikki is believed to have entered the water there is a small island. At this point, PC Thackeray was unable to reach the bottom as the river is about 2 meters deep. In the video footage, PC Thackeray points out some overhanging trees as he allows the flow of the river to take him downstream. He explains he has done this to illustrate how, even when it is moving slowly, the river flow will take someone downstream. PC Thackeray comes to the weir where water flows fast over the weir, and below the weir the river is tidal. PC Thackeray points out several snag hazards, such as fallen trees and vegetation, which weren't searched by the police when they arrived at the scene and started diving at 4 p.m. on the day Nikki went missing. However, the fire service did search this area in a boat. A police underwater search specialist said he believes Nicola Bulley fell into the River Wyre before floating downstream. A video of PC Matthew Thackeray in St Michael's on Wyre in Lancashire, where Miss Bulley is believed to have fallen in, was shown to the court. In it, he said, "There is a large vertical slope from the bench and into the water. On the day there was a steady flow downstream." He went on, "The river was 4C, so almost freezing, and if she fell in, the muscles would probably seize, making it difficult to swim properly. He estimated she would have floated at a meter a second downstream. PC Thackeray described the scene of the riverbank where Nikki was last seen, reports Lanks Live. He used a series of photographs to point out the location and the bench where Nikki's phone was found. These pictures were taken to try to show the slope down the banking towards the river itself, he said. The images show the two areas of sloping, with the second much steeper than the first. PC Thackeray said that although the river level was higher than normal, there was around a 1 meter drop the day Nikki went missing. Dr. Aidley asks, if you have fallen and gone over the edge of the steep section, are you going to stop before you hit the water? PC Thackeray replied, no. You would just go into the water. Nicola Bulley had not been drinking before her death, a Home Office pathologist said. Dr. James Aidley asked Dr. Alison Armour, at the time of her death she had no alcohol in her bloodstream. Dr. Armour replied, that's my opinion. He then asked Dr. Armour if there was any sign Nikki had been assaulted or harmed prior to her death. No, there was not, Dr. Armour replied. Dr. Armour said, I have concluded the cause of death was drowning because of the following factors: the watery fluid within the stomach, the lungs showed typical or classical features we have seen in cases of drowning. The presence of the watery fluid along with the lung changes, in my opinion, confirms that Nicola Bulley was alive when she entered the water. Dr. Lorna Dennison-Wilkins, an underwater search expert, said, Nikki might have had some buoyancy in her clothing which would have dispelled. Once that happened, she would have lost that buoyancy and her body would have sunk under the surface. Dr. Dennison-Wilkins said that people can drown in relatively shallow water if the temperature is cold. She says that 44% of fatalities in water occur when someone had no intention of entering the water. Dr. Aidley described Nikki as a holiday swimmer and asked what it would be like to try and swim against a water speed of 1 meter per second. It would be almost impossible to swim against the current, Dr. Dennison-Wilkins replied. You would have to go with the current and then find a place of safety. Also giving evidence was a mother who bumped into Nicola Bulley on the morning of her disappearance, who said there was nothing of concern. Kiernan, a receptionist, told the inquest she spoke to Ms. Bulley about her dog Willow while dropping off her children at school at just after 8:30 a.m. She said she was not happy, but who is on a Friday morning school run? She wasn't sad, just how I normally knew her. Ms. Kiernan went on, there was nothing of concern. A member of the public has said he saw a man in black in the area. Richard Fife, a dog walker, was unable to attend the inquest, but his evidence was read out. It explains he was walking his dog on the fields close to where Nicola was last seen. He knew her to say hello to her, as they often see each other while out walking. Between 9:10 a.m. and 9:20 a.m. he saw Nicola from a distance. She was looking at her phone. Mr. Fife saw a male he referred to as man in black as he walked towards where he saw Nicola and assumed he was waiting for a lift. Mr. Fife said he then saw him again on his way back and that he was dressed all in black and possibly a beanie hat and was about 6 feet 1 inch tall. Mr. Fife thought it was strange he was still there, according to his statement. Mr. Fife then got in his car and drove off. When he drove past where the man in black had been, he was gone. After hearing Nicola had gone missing, Mr. Fife reported his sighting of the man in black to police. An eyewitness, sales executive Claire Cheshire, said she saw Nicola as she dropped her kids off at school at 8:40 a.m. She said, as Nikki would always do, she bent down and stroked my dog, smiling, at the same time as walking along in the direction of Garstang Road, which was very normal behavior. She saw Nicola and her dog Willow later, approaching the gap between two fields. It looked absolutely idyllic. From having a younger dog pulling on a long lead, I looked up and my thoughts were, that's where I want to be with my dog. She was walking along and Willow was running up and down the banking, just having a lovely run and play round the field. Ms. Cheshire said that other than Penny, who owns the caravan park next to the river, she didn't see anyone else other than one dog walker much further down. Ms. Cheshire left the field at around 9:15 a.m. and was captured on nearby CCTV at 9:18 a.m. Another witness, Susan Jones, a retired care worker, told the court that at around 10 a.m. on January 27 she received a call from Penny Fletcher, who had discovered Willow and the phone. She then bumped into Anne-Marie, Ms. Fletcher's daughter-in-law, who recognized a photograph of Ms. Bulley and her family on the phone lock screen. She then rang the local school, before speaking to Ms. Bulley's partner, Paul Ansell. Ms. Jones told the inquest, Anne-Marie spoke on the phone and said that he, Mr. Ansell, said she's struggling. The inquest heard that Lucie Musella, a waitress, had been contacting Nicola Bulley to arrange a playdate between their daughters. Nicola texted Lucie the night before she went missing, but Lucie only saw it on Friday morning. Lucie replied at 8:13 a.m., I said my daughter would love to come and play. At 8:59 a.m. Nikki replied confirming a time and put a smiley face emoji. Lucie and Nicola were also due to meet up the following day. We were going to be meeting up, a group of mums, on the Saturday night for a few drinks. 2 women have also told the inquest of hearing a scream near the riverside on the morning she vanished. Nurse Helen O'Neill said she was with her dogs in the garden of her house on Allotment Lane, not far from a path that leads to the bench overlooking the River Wyre where Ms. Bulley disappeared. She told the inquest, I heard a scream, it's not an alarming noise, it was just over in a couple of seconds. I'm quite used to hearing the children in the school out back, but it was not that noise. I vividly remember thinking it's unusual at this time. In my head, I had 2 females, walking along by the river and one jumped out on the other. I didn't think anything of it until later on. There were no other sounds for me to be concerned about. A second witness, Veronica Clayson, a housewife and club secretary for the village tennis club, said, I was just about to get into the car and I heard a scream. A very short scream and my immediate thought was, somebody is having a bit of fun at the back of the graveyard. Ms. Clayson said it was an inhale scream, like a sharp intake of breath. Penny Fletcher, the owner of a campsite in St. Michael's on Wyre close to where Nicola was last seen, came across Nicola's dog Willow at 9:30 a.m. after taking her own dog for a walk. Mrs. Fletcher, who is giving evidence via video link, said, as I came round the bend I came to the stile, I tied up my dog and climbed over the stile. I saw this Springer Spaniel. It was near the bench and then it was going towards the river where it drops down really steep. It wasn't doing anything chaotically, it was a bit giddy. I saw a mobile phone on the bench and between the bench and the river I saw a bundle in the grass. I walked down and it was one of those dog harnesses. Mrs. Fletcher said Willow's dog tag had a reference to Moe Vets in Thornton Cleveleys, but that when she called them about finding the dog they didn't want to know. When she got back to St. Michael's on Wyre after attending a medical appointment in Garstang, Mrs. Fletcher called her daughter-in-law Anne-Marie and asked about the dog. She said, oh no, it's Nikki's dog and Nikki has gone missing. The inquest also heard that Nicola Bulley's Fitbit watch stopped recording steps beyond 9:30 a.m. on the day she disappeared, a digital specialist for Lancashire Police said. DC Keith Greenhalgh told an inquest into her death, Nicola Bulley's iPhone was recovered from a bench. The phone was intact and there was no sign that it had been in the water. Speaking about her Fitbit watch, he went on, my initial thoughts were that the device lost power on February 4, 2023. He said there were no further steps recorded beyond 9:30 a.m. on January 27th. So, after hearing all of the details from the first day of Nicola Bulley's inquest, what do we think? In our opinion, there seems to be a lot of revelations about the information that was given to Lancashire Police at the time Nicola went missing that we didn't get to hear about. You have to ask why. If a woman goes missing and a witness sees a man in black as the witness called him, why were we not told to look out for this individual? Why wasn't a description of this individual given out to the public so that we could be on the lookout for a possible perpetrator, for Nicola's and our own safety come to that? Could it be that they already knew what had happened and that is the reason they did not issue any of the finer details to the public? Something tells us that this inquest will again raise more questions than answers, and this is only day 1. Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the blinker hole.